All right, we are in the middle of SF playing a game of hide and seek. We split into 2 different teams, and it is time for the first team to go hide.
In our game of hide and seek across SF, there are 2 teams of 4 people, the hiders and the seekers. The hiders have 30 minutes to find a hiding spot anywhere in SF, and then the seekers have 2 hours to find them. Hiders must choose a spot and remain there for the entire duration. The only information that the seekers start with is which quadrant of the game map the hiders are in. To deduce the hider's location, seekers ask questions from the question bank related to the hider's surroundings, proximity to the seekers, and pictures. Questions are worth between 5 to 35 points, which are awarded to the hiders, depending on how much information the question gives. After the hiders are found, or if the 2-hour period ends without the hiders being found, the teams switch roles.
All right, Harm. We're gonna destroy them.
Yes, we are.
They're not even gonna get within half a mile of us.
So we've done a couple simulations, and the current meta is to ask for the bus line question, which the question is, name a bus line for a bus stop within 25 miles of your hiding spot. That one in the simulations has provided a lot of useful information about where it really narrows down the space that the hiders can be. Another really good question is if they're within 0.5 miles of a body of water or any blue on the map. So that's been the meta from the simulations. However, I think that there is a potentially better solution that we may be able to take advantage of. The better strategy is because the bus line question is 35 points, that is approximately the value of 2 questions. And if you're not getting the information that you would have gotten from 2 questions, then it's not worth it. So it is potentially better to drop a 2-mile radar and eliminate half or more than half of the playing field.
Another thought is like with the radars, we actually have to travel to the spot. So
That's true,
are there
yes.
other questions we could think of where it's like right off the bat, like with water, we can just immediately ask it and then before we have to travel? Are there ones like, you know, in a McDonald's or Safeway, or I don't know exactly, but one where we could just ask right off the bat and then before we even take the time to try, if we could kind of have a better idea.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'll say that from what we've planned our spot to be just out of range of basically all of those questions you can ask. It's like McDonald's, Safeway, Starbucks, like stuff like that. So if they've also planned that adversarially, then that may provide no information. So I think just being able to eliminate just entire big chunks of the map, like half of the map at a time, I think that may be more productive.
And I'm also thinking that we should look at the trains again, or sorry, the buses again, and see if there's a better option that is more tricky.
I think there's 2 main adversarial strategies from their perspective. One would be to try to be as close to 0.5 miles away from the water, but not quite be within that. So that means that they're going to be close to the coast, but not within 0.5. The other is that they are in an area that is near water, but is just tricky that we probably wouldn't think of. So I have looked at the map, and I haven't been able to find any small bodies of water that are not along the coast.
Okay, my thoughts are when I ran the simulation with M-Tang is that we kept hiding in the first quadrant, and I was wondering if he's gonna know because this is like the only spot that we haven't been in.
So it's possible that they're in this bottom right area because a lot of the simulations have taken place in the upper right part of that quadrant. Here is a great area because there are some shops here, and there's also the UCSF campus here, which may provide several indoor hiding spots. Also, to clarify, their hiding spot must be indoors.
So we've settled down at Phil's Coffee instead of the public library because Ryan said that there wasn't very much space. And all the questions are still true, so we might just stay here for now.
Okay, so we've determined after some research that the best first question to ask is the water. If the answer is yes, that they are near water, then our goal will be to bisect the coastline until we find them. So a good spot for that would be to drive to Hyatt Place SF downtown. If the answer is no for water, then I'll assume that they are probably somewhat near the coastline, but not within 0.5 miles. So then we're going to want to, bisect the more inland parts. So we can use like a 2-mile radar to eliminate a lot of the bottom half and then go from there. So we asked the water question and we got our answer. The answer was yes, they are within 0.5 miles of water. So as discussed before, we will go drive to the Hyatt and then drop our 1.5 mile radar. So let's go. We asked a 1.5 mile radar from the Hyatt downtown SF, and they said the answer was yes, they are within, which is this larger circle right here.
So the first place that M-Tank dropped the radar is right here, and this is where we are. He did a 1.5 mile radius, but he's only 1,000 feet away.
Combined with the information of them being within a 0.5 mile distance of water, that means that there are 3 main points of interest. One could be the Embarcadero Mall, which is at the top here. A mall would be an indoor place that would be hard to find them. Another may be this area right over here in the middle, where one quirk is that there's a question that you can ask if they are near a street that's like numbered. And right near the coast, it actually is not numbered. So that's kind of like a blind spot if you'd ask that question. The third option is they could be down here towards the bottom right. There's UCSF, which is, there could be a lot of indoor buildings that are good hike spots. There's also cafes. And there's also a lot of good adversarial bus lines that would be near this bottom right area.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Do we drive a bit south and then do a half-mile radar?
Yeah, so a half-mile radar shown here is actually pretty small. We'll probably need to reposition. One option is we can just drive down here, because I personally think that they might be here. Just knock that out first. Another option is we can use the questions that are relative to different types of buildings. So like one could be Safeway. So there's a Safeway near the Embarcadero. There's also a Safeway that's kind of in the middle here. So that may not be helpful because that covers all areas of interest. McDonald's kind of covers some of the north part, but not quite. There's also like a 7-Eleven here. So we could use that to eliminate the upper part. I mean, honestly, right now, I feel like we're pretty close to the bottom right, and I already have a hunch for that. So I'd be down to reposition down to the bottom right. You can probably eliminate Embarcadero Mall with a 7-Eleven question, because if they're here, then that would be within 0.5 miles of this 7-Eleven. And that can be done remotely. So I think maybe we can just go down here and
Ask
drop
the
a
half
point.
mile.
Yeah.
If no, then ask the 7-Eleven.
Yeah. And then if
if
not,
no, then
they're
drive
probably here. Yeah. So we are at Huffiger Park. I may have mispronounced that. But yeah, we are here to drop a 0.5 mile radar. I have a hunch that they're at UCSF. So I've just sent it in, and okay, so they just said that they are within 0.5 miles, which is good. That means we don't have to drive north. I think it makes sense to just hone in on the hunch. We can drive over to UCSF, drop a 0.3 mile radar, and if that's a success, then the compass should really lead us to the end game. All right, we are at UCSF. So I had a hunch that they were at UCSF or a cafe nearby. That's not actually true. You just asked them for a 0.3 mile radar, and the answer was no. So we're gonna reposition, drop another 0.3 mile radar a bit west, and we'll see what the results are for that.
The second 0.3 mile radar was a miss, which narrowed down the remaining possibilities. Upon looking at the map closer, we saw a Phil's Coffee and went to go check it out.
All right, so we think they're at Phil's Coffee. Let's see if they're here. Hello. That's time. Now that we have found the seekers, we will switch roles, and now it's our turn to hide. So my team, we're gonna head out now. Let's go. So we are here at our hiding spot. Where the exact location is this monument called Peace by Minamio Bufano. And yeah, I guess just as a refresher, the meta that we found from the simulations was to ask for the bus line route and the water. So Johnny, do you want to explain why this is such a good spot?
Yeah, this is a great spot because technically it is within 0.5 miles of water, but it's not near the ocean and it's not near any big lakes. The closest part of water is actually outside of the maps regions to the south, and it's a small, tiny pond within a golf course, but still blue on the map, so it counts. So what we're hoping for is that they'll guess that they're within 0.5 miles of the water. We'll say yes. Then they'll maybe be going up north to Outer Sunset. We also picked a bus line that gives very little information. So we're hoping that will funnel them kind of to the northwest region and then get them all confused. It's also great because it's not close to any McDonald's, Starbucks, 7-Eleven, Safeway, so that won't give them any information from that.
Yep, and just as a reminder, to be within 0.5 miles of the body of water, the body of water is any blue on Google Maps. So it is blue on Google Maps, and I did tell them to look very closely at the map. So they should have no excuse if they try to say this wasn't valid. So we'll be here for the next 2 hours while they try to find us. So they just asked the first question. Their first question was, are we within 0.5 miles of a body of water? And of course I answered yes. They seem to have stopped asking questions, so they're probably on the move, probably copying our strategy. Only time will tell if they are going to ask the bus question, since we did not.
We're heading out now to Stonestown, where we'll drop a radar. So instead of Stonestown, we will probably head to Laguna Honda Hospital instead to eliminate the upper right first. It's because it's on our way.
So they asked us for a 1.5 mile radar from the right part of the bottom right quadrant. I think this makes sense for them because they're ruling out that we could be near a body of water that's towards the right of the map. They will probably be heading towards sunset, and I expect them to drop another radar soon.
Okay, we just found out that they're not within 1.5 mile radius of us, which means that that little clover of water area, that can be eliminated. And so we're thinking of either asking if there are any numbered streets to eliminate either the kind of upper portion of this quadrant or the lower portion, or maybe looking at the bus stops or bus lines.
Oh no.
Yes, body of water, but there's no number in the cross street, so we have narrowed it down to the bottom left quarter of the quadrant. But now
like near Lowell.
we'll think of what to do.
So they're at Stonestown Galleria, and they asked a 1 mile radar from the Whole Foods there. It turns out that we are barely within 1 mile. I'm not sure if that's helpful or not helpful, but yeah, we are within 1 mile, and we'll see what the next move is after that.
We are at 85 degrees because we're hungry, but Emping's within 1 mile, so we're not that far away, hopefully.
So the rest of the game was pretty hectic for the Seekers since time was running low, so I'll summarize what happened. First, they dropped a 0.5 mile radar from the mall they were at, which was a miss. Then, they drove upward and dropped another 0.5 mile radar, which was another miss. With less than 30 minutes of the game remaining, they were allowed to use remote radars, which costed more points, but were no longer relative to the Seeker's location. They dropped a remote 0.3 mile radar on a hilly area, which was a miss, and their final non-remote 0.3 mile radar was another miss. With that, their 2 hour period was over, and we told them our hiding spot in order to meet up.
Hey, hello.
You were right. They were at a random tiny park.
And that's a wrap. Looks like my team won. The other team was never able to find us, but yeah, that's it. Now we'll head to dinner, I guess.